Service Committee, November 7th, 2024.
Call to order Service Committee at 6:00 p.m. Members present, Sierra Chair, Kevin Myers, Zion Hickman, I myself, Chris Moritz, Chair. Any public participation at this time?
Service Committee.
Service Committee. I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the minutes for October 17th, 2024.
So moved.
Awesome.
Mr. Myers first, Zion Hickman second. There's packets out there for title.
Mr. Chair, you want to take a vote on that?
Oh, take a vote on it, sorry. I'm skipping right along, aren't I? I can take a vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you, Kevin. Title IX, there's copies of it out there for people to read. We just got this yesterday, so I'm sure nobody's up on it yet. I'd like to have our committee to have time to digest that whole big old packet there. So
everybody that had taken a look at it, law director, administration.
Everybody's been through it again for, I think, since spring.
Everybody's happy with it.
Everybody's happy with it. That's why we have it now where it's at. The only one we don't have is 925-1. That's still being worked on. Everything else is.
Are we wanting to include that in the?
At least, yeah. When we get that, we'll include it in it before we pass it on to anything else.
Okay.
Or do anything else with it. This is everything that administration wanted us to go over and look at and vote, and they themselves go over and look at and change things while we had the opportunity. So I encourage everybody to look at that and see if they have anything to add or not to add to it. So we'll table it for today's meeting to have everybody have time to look at it. That's all right with everybody.
That works.
Yep.
Open project, anybody got any open projects you want to look at?
No, sir.
No, thank you.
Only thing I have a question for the mayor, that I don't know when the last time we had any conversation about it was with Miller Service Road. How's that coming along?
All Miller Service Road, well, where it's at right now is it's more or less in Dylan's
All right, Bill Meyer here. The first service road that went around with the Park District, we just turned in final pay request for that. We did that final walkthrough 2 weeks ago on that. So it is open to the public to enjoy now. So final pay request was just issued on that from both the city side and the Park District side.
Nice.
And
That's the only thing I had.
And to add to that, this is Jeff Dunn, Service Garage Foreman. We're actually using the road with the sewer truck already, starting to clean the sewer out there.
Very good. That's the only thing I had for open projects. Everybody else good?
Yep.
Moving on to public participation again.
Ken Long, 625 South Spring Street. I'm just trying to be clear on this utility. It's listed under utility deposit, which is not it's not listed that way up front here. I'll read this. So this is under page 11, chapter 915, water charges, regulations, and meters. On this page, it's 915.4, responsibility for payment of charges, tenant and property owners remain jointly responsible. And so, I don't know what that means. And then when I refer over to the next page, or 2 pages over, where we're into 915.4, it talks about utility deposit only, and there's no mention about who pays for what. Unless it's someplace else not marked.
Well, then again, like I said, we just received this final, hopefully, version of it tonight, so we get a chance to look through it all.
In past drafts, this was lined out. There's like four or
Right.
five
I remember seeing that.
lines, okay. And it looks like there's been too much lined out. or too much deleted, because it doesn't mention about payment at all, about water.
That might be something we need to look into.
Sure.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? Seeing none, adjourn at 6:07.
Economic Development Committee, November 7th, 2024.
I will call on Economic Development's order at 6:07 PM. Members present are Vicky DeShawn, Christopher Moritz, and myself, Zion Hickman Chair. Carolyn Scheiderman is absent. Do you have any public participation for economic development?
Greg White, 1125 Hillcrest Drive. Mr. Hickman, I want to thank you for your comments that you posted on the hate group page. I just wanted to express this to you and ask you why, an elected official, that you cannot let every citizen in this community to see it. You are a public official, and your comments or posts should be for everyone to see, and not just a small group of people who are only let a certain people in. In saying that, I brought up at a council meeting Monday night that I would like to see the agreements between the Crawford County Partnership and the Visitors and Travel Bureau be terminated. Reason why is there are too many expenditures that no one can answer any questions to. Okay, this is, in my belief, in my opinion, the Visitors and Travel Bureau is a rogue group of people spending money recklessly for not meeting the terms of the agreement of the contract, which is to promote tourism. How does a contract with Lene Naples from this consulting firm of an LLC who does not have a license in the state of Ohio? I've already contacted the state Secretary of State's office. This company does not have a license in the state of Ohio to operate a business in here. Okay? That's one factor. Two, they're only promoting people that are in the Chamber of Commerce. Why aren't they spending more money on videos to promote the city of other businesses? Because that is what the intent, purpose of the agreement is to promote. There was nothing given to the car show people, nothing given to the bike show people. However, the Bratwurst Festival got $1,500. Why isn't they spending money on those two that bring tourism into our city? This is all about tourism, right? So it's only about people in the chamber on the video. All those companies were members of the chamber, except for the one-room schoolhouse. So I'm asking this committee to actually investigate, and if I have to, I will ask the law director to investigate the improprieties of this bureau and why we cannot get public records requests, because you are a member of that board. You are the representative for the city of Bucyrus. However, you denied me public records as an agent of this city. Okay? Two is, why aren't they being truthful? Why don't just come out and tell everything? Show the records of the past 7 years. I had to do a public records request to find out how much money they have got since 2018.
May I do a point of order?
Excuse me, ma'am. I am speaking. This is my right to talk during public participation without being interrupted, please.
What is the point of order?
Mr. White, I am all for people coming to council and to committees to speak. I am the last person that would say, you can't talk. However, as it was pointed out by previous councils, and I agree, and I believe you had also mentioned this a couple times, when you come and talk, if you can't say it one time, you don't need to repeat yourself. You have already expressed your displeasure of both the Bucyrus Tourism and the Chamber of Commerce We've heard it more than once. I personally don't want to hear it again.
Are you done?
Are you done?
No. I have a right to redress my
I know
government.
your constitutional right, which you
That's right.
repeatedly say. So I will be quiet. I have said my piece. You go
And thank you
ahead
for
and
interrupting.
repeat yourself over and over and over. Thank you.
Thank you for interrupting me and being inconsiderate
I'm allowed to
citizens.
do a point of order.
All right, we gotta stop this. Is there
Okay.
a point to?
Yeah, there is a point, sir.
Can we get to it, please?
I mean, let's get the books opened up. Mr. Sean, who wants to interrupt, brought up the fact that she wanted the books opened up on to the Bucyrus Festival.
No, I
Okay.
did not.
But she had a lot of information. So my thing is this, we need to find out what's truly going on. Secondly, on the partnership, okay? I believe a grant writer would be far better ahead, that the $50,000 being spent out of the general fund would be far more beneficial to the city of Bucyrus and every department in the city of Bucyrus to write grants and get grants that would benefit the city as a whole. Thank you.
To that first point, that post was made public. It was not privately shared. In order for something to be shared, it must be public. Secondly, I did not deny you a records request. I told you to go to them directly. I was told by an attorney for the state of Ohio that a records request cannot be made to make me make a records request. 3, the Tourism Bureau is promoting tourism on a very wide range of things that have not been done by the previous Bureau. And that landing page that was created 2 months ago is still in its infancy, and things for it are still being created. Things are being worked on, and everything will be included in its due time. Third, does the committee feel that we should terminate the contracts with the chamber and the partnership being all they've done for us so far?
No.
No, not this time.
I'm also a no. So this committee will not be investigating the chamber, will not be investigating the partnership in any capacity. If you would like to poke the law director for an investigation, you are welcome to do so. However, I don't think you're going to find anything that you already haven't found. Is there any other public participation for economic development?
No. Oh, excuse me.
Seeing none, I will move on to the approval of minutes from October 17th, 2024, regular Economic Development Committee meeting.
I move to approve the October 17th, 2024 regular Economic Development Committee meeting minutes.
I second that.
First, or a motion from Mr. Shawn, a second from Mr. Moritz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Does the committee have any open projects we would like to discuss?
No.
I do not either at this time.
Do not have anything either. Opening up to public participation for economic development one last time.
Greg White, 1125 Hillcrest Drive. I want to ask this committee, because I forgot to ask the committee before, why aren't public open projects listed on documents on demand? They were listed for 2023, but however, they are not listed for 2024 for the public to review. The open public documents list from every committee in the city of Bucyrus on this council, in these committees.
Is there a reason you're looking at me as you pose that question?
No, I'm just looking. I'm just saying, they are not posted on documents on demand.
I can remedy that for you.
Thank you.
I haven't been actively uploading them, and that's on me, but I can.
That's fine. I just wondered why they're not being posted. All 2023s were posted on there, but 2024 has never been posted on there. I just wanted to clarify that because,
I can do that for you.
thank you.
Kurt Fankhauser, 616 Prospect Street.
Excuse me, if I may say something. Since you have come up, Kurt, I was going to bring this up in the Health and Safety Committee since you brought it up at our Health and Safety Committee, but since you want to be able to follow the rules, as you pointed out, I would like to point out that according to our Rules of Procedure for Bucyrus City Council, last updated March 2024, under,
Mr. Shawn, if I can interrupt.
excuse me,
Is this pertinent to economic development's public?
it's pertinent to his identifying himself and his address.
I think we can address that at the proper
and safety?
committee. Yeah,
Okay, I'll do that then, thank you.
continue.
Public participation, it's been allowed to anybody come up and say whatever they want here recently, but yet, just earlier, when Mr. White was talking, Vicki, you shut him down and said, I don't want to hear what you have to say.
Because I've already heard it once before, twice before.
So is that the new
3
standard? If
times.
something's been said once before, now it can't be said again?
Is this pertinent to economic development?
It's
If not,
pertinent to
then-
what happened in economic development. And that happened 5 minutes earlier.
This is why we are not getting anything productive done. You know, I've tried to remain calm, and I'm really going to try, but I have listened to you, I have listened to Mr. White, who is my neighbor. And I tell you, I remember the relationship, you coming down to my home and coming in and spending hours, and now you drive by the house and there's no throw up of a hand or anything. You even ignore my husband. But my point being, you folks, you two have said, the last 9 months, we're not getting anything done. We're not doing anything productive. How can we, when we sit and have to listen to someone repeat over and over and over, I am not a child, I can hear, I can comprehend.
I'm just,
My 9-year-old granddaughter could probably repeat everything some of you adults have repeated
you're
and
taking
repeated.
up my public participation time, Vicki.
There is no time.
There
We're
is no
allowed
time
to
limit
say
on this
how much time
participation.
limit. So we could say, Kurt, you're done, and there's nothing you can do.
So you're
I'm-
for,
no.
you're for shutting down public
No,
participation
I did
now?
not say that. You said that
Only
I
when
was
it's what you
eating
want to
into your
hear.
time.
That's all I needed to know.
Oh, and you're hearing what you want to hear.
Any more public participation for economic development pertaining to strictly economic development? Seeing none, I will adjourn at 6:19 PM.
Health and Safety Committee, November 7th, 2024.
I call the Health and Safety Committee meeting to order at 6:21 PM. Members present are Kevin Myers, C. Aaron Sherrick, James Me, and myself, Vicki DeShawn, as chair. With permission from the committee members, I would like to make 2 statements before we start with public participation. At the last, I guess, is there any opposition from anybody on the committee with?
You're the chair.
Okay. At the last Health and Safety Committee meeting, it was brought up by President Fankhauser questioning why the city auditor was sitting behind the railing. He stated that according to our rules, that the only people that are supposed to be behind the railing at committee meetings are the committee members for the committee that is meeting at that time. I don't believe that's a correct statement. Under our rules of procedure, B, council participation, it states, "No person except members of council and other designated city officials shall be admitted within the railing of council chambers except during the recess period." It goes on to say under number 9, when a committee is meeting, only the appointed members of that committee will be seated within the council chamber railing. All members not appointed to the committee will remain seated outside the council chamber railing. The intent, and it would appear that maybe we need to be a little more specific, the intent was that we put number 9 in this year so that it was identified to everyone that the only committee members that are sitting up here are the members for the committee that is meeting. If you're not on the committee meeting, then you sit out there. That does not take away the ability of the city officials to be behind the railings. Secondly, under city participation, A, number 7, I have discovered that it says each individual addressing council or a committee is asked to identify themselves and their residential address. The definition of residential is, your residential address is simply the place where you live. So I just want to remind everyone that when you do come up to the podium and state your name, that it is your residential address, that you are required by the rules, which Mr. Fankhauser has said on more than one occasion that, he will be enforcing. So again, residential address is what you need to give to us. Thank you. Okay. First off, we'll start off with public participation.
Clarissa Slater, 3645 State Route 4. I have another meeting to go to, so thank you for, I sent you an email, but I'm just going to read my email if that's okay. That way you don't have to.
Great.
So to start off, I just want to say, not trying to beat a dead horse with this, because I know it's been brought up before, but it's been reinvigorated. I'm sure it's going to be said by me, but actually not. So I'm just going to lead my final thoughts on this. So what I stated, and this was to Vicki and Aaron, because it's in both committees, I said quick thoughts before the meeting. I sent it at 6:05. So good evening. I am emailing you to let you know about my ongoing concerns about the wavelength issues. I'll give my shortest synopsis of my concerns regarding the process. I apologize. Sometimes I'm a little winded. For the individual who ran on a platform of transparency, it is deeply disturbing that every idea he has had has been shrouded in backdoor dealings with hastily conceived ideas and performed without consideration of the important details. Wavelink wasn't presented publicly as an alternative cost-saving measure. It was done privately and done with no advisement from third-party professionals or legal counsel. The previous law director had no prior knowledge of the installation of Wavelink until it was already implemented as the city's active service provider. Showing the arrogance of installing a service without properly ensuring the business and the city were protected and being transparent about their intentions. Mr. Fankhauser states his internet and his cameras are entirely separate from his performance as city council president. However, he has previously used the knowledge gained and access through his camera system for political and personal advantages. I was also informed he used to have the email administrative access to all emails under the city domain name. Previously stated to me that he did not have access to this until the passkey was recently changed. Previously, this access had contributed to could have contributed to odd record requests made by Greg White, stating the exact timestamp down to the minute and title of an email I sent regarding the purpose and scope of the president's position on council. Citizens have the right to know that Mr. Fankhauser can access the 27 cameras on his business server that he has personally wired into police dispatch so they may access, record, and save footage. I do not discount the advantage of this service and the surveillance and power it gives our police in responding to and proactively stopping crime. I know that they have been used to assist in investigations, proving their utility. However, Mr. Fankhauser has access to all of the saved footage, but it is only for the length of time he decides to save the private footage on his servers. He may also import this data to hard storage on hard drives and save them indefinitely. This means Mr. Fankhauser has limitless and instantaneous access to all cameras on his server without any administrative oversight. To put a rumor to rest on this topic, he does not have access to the city's server that is wired through Brightspeed internet service and administered by COSI, the security consultant for the police department. Mr. Fankhauser states he does not data cache information from public use of his Wi-Fi throughout the city, nor does he data cache city servers for profit. Data harvesting, however, is a legal way for internet service providers to make money and is arguably more profitable than the service cost itself. The data that can be collected includes all unencrypted data. This includes every URL you visit, all the content on the pages you are reading, how long you stay on any site, and which devices you are accessing the internet from. ISPs, internet service providers, sell this information they gather to marketing companies, and those companies, in turn, feed your targeted ads. So if you ever think of like Big Brother's watching, it's because they know what you like and then target the ads to you. We as citizens don't have the guarantee that he is selling our raw data to third-party companies. No audit has been done or is required. The unanswered question concerns not just me, but numerous citizens. To protect the citizens from being taken advantage of and used for profit, I am asking the City Council regulate all city officials' donations, meaning any city official that donates to the city, to protect the city government, the officials themselves, and its citizens. I ask that legislation be drafted to require donors to prove they are not profiting from these services or goods they are providing. This could be done by an independent financial auditor and/or, in case of Wavelink, a thorough security audit to prove he is not caching and withholding the city and citizens' data. This would prevent Mr. Fankhauser's business from being discriminated against as the only business required to do so. I also ask that in this legislation, contracts are required to be signed by both the designated city official with the administrative authority and the donor, and the law director either endorse the contract or sign as a witness. I would request that it all be required to be publicly posted, similar to how legislation is posted. That way citizens know the contract terms, what is being donated, and how. The most insidious thing about this donation is the ambiguity of the donation. Everyone is in the dark to the terms of the agreement slash contract. All we know is there is no written contract, and we need to know the terms. Allowing a unilateral access to controlling our city's internet, a crucial infrastructure function, creates an unethical power dynamic. Nothing stops Mr. Fankhauser from blackmailing the city or its officials when he doesn't get his way. And if he so chooses, he can pull all of his resources without notice. He could leave the city in the literal dark, turning off the lights. Our phones, internet, and everything that is ran through his system would be dead in the water, and it would take days, if not weeks, for an install to occur to replace his service, essentially halting city business in the meantime. We already know another city official has extorted a public official, and criminal harassment charges are outstanding regarding that interaction. Lastly, laws are drafted to protect citizens, the government, and invested parties. This is not an overreach of the legislator to draft such an ordinance. It would prevent this debacle from occurring again. Thank you for taking the concerns of our citizens seriously. Thank you.
Any other public participation?
Good evening. My name is Keith French, 351 Grant Street, Galion, Ohio. That's where I lay my head, so that'd be my residence, I suppose. I've never been to one of the council meetings here. I watch your on the feed every time because it's damn good entertainment. But today I'm being forced to come here. I don't want to be here, but I'm going to address the cameras. I stopped into the city offices today and I spoke with the chief of police. I've spoke with the law director and I've spoke with the executive branch, the mayor. And I'm requesting, where is the feed going to these cameras? I don't care if there's 1,000 of them around. Where is the feed going? Can anyone answer me on the council? Law director, I don't know the rules. You folks have made so many rules, it confuses me. I don't want to. May I address the law director? Law director, I spoke with you in the hallway and I spoke with the mayor in the hallway. I asked you about where the feed is going. You gave me a response. Can you repeat that response to me?
I'll actually defer to the mayor on this one.
Well, when I spoke with you in the hall and asked the mayor deferred it over to you as the representative. So I'll let you two work it out. I want to know where the feed is going.
This is where we talk about live stream.
Okay. All right. Where this is going at right now is that we want to go ahead and take where the camera footage is. We would like to go ahead and we went ahead and contacted Mr. Fankhauser after our conversation between Brandon and myself and another participant that we had talked about earlier in the day. And we're going to go ahead and live stream all the cameras from here on out. That way all the individuals, anybody out there can look and watch the cameras from here going forward.
So you're going to live stream
Yes, sir.
on city property?
Yes, sir. Just like you know, like up there at Putin Bay. If you ever get on Channel 3 News channel, you can watch that in the morning time. You can see the Putin Bay dockage.
Sure.
The boardwalk in Florida, the boardwalk in California.
Sure, I understand.
It's live feed.
Sure.
That way, it's everybody is accessible to it.
Sure.
And there's
And when will this take place?
as soon as Mr. Fankhauser can work it out.
Well, I don't trust him to do anything, so I'm asking when the city, when will this take place? Tomorrow?
Well, I'm proposing it right now tonight.
Okay,
So
are
I don't
those
know
cameras?
Exactly how you want me to
Well,
answer that question.
I guess my question is right
I'm
now,
trying to be forthright with you right now and telling you what we're gonna do. Do I have a timeline? No, I don't have a timeline.
are those cameras live right now?
Yes.
As of,
Yes, they're live.
they're live right
They're
now?
live right now that the police.
Where is
department-
the feed? The feed right now is
Police department
going.
can see them live right now.
I'm sorry?
The police department can see them live right now. Tommy Starner, my service director, he has the other feed part of it. He can see it live as well.
Okay, because when I checked with the chief of police, he said he has no access to those feeds. He cannot access the feeds as of this afternoon when I talked to him. He can't. He said that the feeds were going to the dispatch office that would be live, where the dispatchers could look at it in real time. He told me, the chief said he does not have access and hasn't had access for about 6 weeks.
If you want to go over to my office right now, I'll show you.
I would invite every citizen.
That's fine, we'll all walk over there and you can see it.
I'd like to see. Now, is that feed also going into a private residence at this time?
A private residence.
Is it going anywhere that's not in a government facility?
We got a police officer that would like to speak.
Yeah, I can verify our feed in dispatch is not working on those cameras.
Oh, well, there you go.
All right.
I
was unaware of it.
Oh, well, clearly, I wish that you were, being the executive of the city. I wish that you were aware of that.
Well, I wasn't.
Okay, so the live feed right now is not even going into the city buildings here. Where's the feed going right now?
Right now, it's over in my office.
Where's the server? Well, let me just simplify it. Does Mr. Fankhauser have access to these cameras? Can he look at the feed right now? Are you having a private citizen in your city surveillance the rest?
Have you read the letter that I put up there?
No, sir, I haven't.
Right.
You forced me to come here, so.
I'm gonna go ahead and read it.
Okay.
All right. This is on my official letterhead, dated 11/7/2024 to council and committee. It's from myself. Greetings of the day. This camera, internet, and Kurt Fankhauser thing is quickly spiraling out of control. In my estimation, there are several topics at play that must be delineated. After lengthy investigation into the matter, please see my understanding of the situation. Part I. Cameras in question. There appears to be an issue about, quote, the cameras, unquote, that were donated by Kurt Fankhauser in his capacity as owner of Wavelink. There are 3 overall types of cameras in question. Cameras owned by Kurt Fankhauser and or Wavelink that are utilized by the city. It is my understanding that Kurt Fankhauser donates the use of certain cameras that are owned and operated by Wavelink and or Kurt Fankhauser. Basically what that means is he controls those cameras and allows the city to use them. It's pretty standard stuff.
It is.
It's pretty standard stuff. Lots of private entities allow government institutions to look at their camera feeds. Pretty standard. 2, cameras donated to the city by Kurt Fankhauser and or Wavelink that the city utilizes and Kurt and or Wavelink administer. It is my understanding that these cameras are utilized by the city of Bucyrus for official administrative purposes. It is necessary that these cameras be hooked up to the internet in order to function properly, as the cameras constantly upload video to the server. As a result, this system must be administered, and it is my further understanding that Kurt Fankhauser and or Wavelink is the one who administers the technical aspect of the cameras and the associated system through the virtue of the internet, which is further discussed below. 3, cameras operated by the City of Bucyrus Police Department and other confidential cameras in use by the City of Bucyrus that pertain to the security and or infrastructure of the City of Bucyrus. It is my understanding that these cameras are operated completely independently by and through the City of Bucyrus Police Department, and no one outside that agency has access to their cameras. That's my understanding.
Well, that's not correct. We just heard
2,
it.
sir, I am speaking.
Go ahead.
2, Wavelink Internet. Kurt Fankhauser, through his company Wavelink, has donated internet to the City of Bucyrus. Kurt Fankhauser and Wavelink are under no obligation to donate anything to the City of Bucyrus. There has been much discussed as to whether this donation is ethical or not, and I have inspected the Ethics Committee's opinion on point for this exact question. The opinion is attached for your perusal, denoted as Exhibit A. There's a copy of that sitting over there on the table. By virtue of being an internet service provider, Wavelink is required to collect certain data from its users. This is the same for any internet service provider, as all commercial internet service providers are regulated by state and federal laws and regulations. I've seen no evidence to support that Kurt Fankhauser nor Wavelink has committed any impropriety while providing internet to any user. It is my understanding that there are strict requirements that any licensed internet service provider must adhere to, and administration of those requirements are very strict. However, even if, for argument's purposes, which again there's no evidence to support, that Kurt Fankhauser or Wavelink was doing anything in violation of state and federal law and regulation, there are certain systems within the city of Bucyrus which are shielded from the internet service provider. It would be improper to go into detail about this due to the inherent security and infrastructure implications. However, it is fair to note that it is industry standard to have certain systems under an extra layer of protection from the internet service provider or other outside snoopers. 3, a solution to the matter. Having stated the above, it is fair to say that it is my understanding that the only cameras that Kurt Fankhauser and or Wavelink have access to are otherwise public cameras or their own private cameras that the city has been provided access to. The footage from these cameras are public record, and any citizen at any point in time may make a public records request for the footage obtained by these cameras. It is my opinion, much like other cities and towns across the world, we simply allow the camera feeds to be viewed as a live stream. That way, anyone may view the feeds at any time. Theoretically, if somebody wanted to watch the Shines Art Park sit empty for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, then all they would need to do is submit a public records request. This option allows anyone to do the same without having to submit a public records request and should put the whole affair to bed. Now, after writing this letter, we have established that we will be live streaming all of the public cameras, and this whole affair should be put to bed.
And I find that to be acceptable. But I don't find it to be acceptable that those cameras are live right now. Shut the cameras down now until you can get these things on live stream.
What's stopping you from putting in a public records request?
I tried to, sir, and you pretty much just
For
said...
the cameras?
I asked you for the feed. You told me you weren't going to give it to me.
You asked for the location of the feed. If you would like the videos from the cameras, you're more than happy. You're more than permitted to put that in.
I don't really need the location because the mayor made it public on June 18th in the city council meeting at timestamp 25 minutes, exactly where all the cameras are in the city. So I don't need location. And once again, I don't care if you got 1,000 of these things. I want to know where the feed is going. And you're saying right now, and we just verified with the police officer that's sitting right here in council, that they do not have access right now.
That's not what they said. They said that
well, I guess we can address, I can't address him, so somebody can, Mr. Officer, can you please repeat what you said?
Monitors that we have are not showing those feeds. The feed is going somewhere. It's just not on our screen right now.
What I heard was the feed is going somewhere, but not on the monitors. Where's the feed going? Anybody? 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 Guess that's all I gotta say.
Jesus Christ.
He's a good man.
Yes, he is. Blesses me every day.
But at what point we can hire feeds those, sir?
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Aaron?
I understand.
Excuse me?
I said I understand. Okay, my question, so we're going live, or that's, we've decided to go live with all of the cameras,
just the public ones.
including all the ones at the pool?
At the park, yes.
Oh, okay. So we'll have anybody and everybody be allowed to watch kids at the pool?
If that's your decision, it's been referred to your committee.
I'm asking if this was a forethought.
That's ultimately going to be up to you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now, if I'm hearing correctly, Mr. Goldberg, you just stated that it's just been decided that we're going to live stream.
Correct.
And who made that decision?
That's an administrative function.
Okay.
Right.
So then you state it's up to us whether that.
To create
I'm trying to
categories-
understand.
Yes, to create categories of what is considered a public camera and what is not. That could be something you could pass through resolution or otherwise.
So through resolution, council could state what again? And I apologize, I'm not computer literate, so I don't understand how all this works.
There's nothing stopping you from creating an internet or a camera policy, and in that camera policy specifically state that, for instance, a pool camera would specifically not be considered a public camera.
So we can say which cameras are public and which cameras aren't.
Correct.
Okay.
I got a question for the officer. Is the code side cameras on?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I want to know. I wanted to know you had some kind of, not all the cameras are off down there.
Correct.
Thank you. You have to come back up to the podium.
Can I come back up? I don't know what the rules are here. I can come back up?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the rules are. Okay, so the committee is able to determine which cameras would be accessible to the public. And then if those cameras aren't, are they going to be removed? If they say like the pool camera is not going to be live streamed, is it going to be removed?
And I guess that's a question to the administration.
Why would it be removed?
Where's the feed going?
Is that the only people?
You keep, with all due respect, Mayor, you keep saying the police department, but we've had 2 confirmations. It ain't going to the police department right now. I mean,
Just
it's.
because they can't see it doesn't mean that it's not going there. You're making.
Oh, geez, well, that's a good one.
It doesn't mean it's not
Okay.
recorded.
Okay,
It's going to the mayor's office,
okay.
okay?
You're making an assumption. And
A lot of assumptions, because I can't get answers.
Assumptions don't help the situation at all. You're making an assumption that the feed is going somewhere else because they can't see it. Whether they can see it or not, we don't know because they need to have a technician look at it.
Okay, now just, you tell me that I'm making an assumption, but you just said you don't know. Please explain that to me.
I'm not making an assumption.
You just said you don't know.
I don't know.
Where's
if
the
it's
feed
fact that
going?
The feed is not going there.
But
or if the
you
feed is
don't
going
know.
there. Sir, I don't know, and I don't think anybody at this point knows if the feed is going there and they can't see it, or if the feed is going somewhere else. Making an assumption that the feed is going somewhere else is not accurate because we don't have that information, and it's not helpful to the situation.
I thought it was a pretty simple question. Where's it going?
Mr. Sean,
Aaron?
I think he wants to know who all has that access to that feed.
That's what I want to know. Where's it going?
And that it has not actually been answered once. Not. I mean,
No.
So we have the police
So it's not even an
department.
assumption, it's a question.
Where is it going?
We have the police department and we have the safety service director's office. Is it going anywhere else?
Probably through Kurt's service, it will be at Kurt's service as well.
Where is the location of that?
That would be a security issue. We don't want that out.
Okay.
The server,
Correct. That would
you
be a
actually want the
security
server's
issue.
location?
Well, you're sitting here saying that you've got things that are donated. The man donated cameras.
He donated
If he
cameras.
donated the cameras, then he donates everything. If he can't do that, I would advise the committee to call COSI. Because COSI monitors all the cameras that are in this building. If he doesn't have the capacity to do that, then he's not the man for the job. The servers need to be in a city building, a government building, or at least monitored by a company that is insured, bonded, and legally binding, that knows and got legally licenses and all the whole, I don't know if he does or not. He donated cameras. What businessman donates cameras? But he does what he does.
He actually didn't donate cameras, he donated the service of the cameras.
Which means that the service, he donate, I mean, my thing is, as a citizen, that I come visit your town, and I sit down at your park, and I enjoy your concerts that you put on, and I have no problem being surveilled by the police department. I give up all my privacy rights. I, however, as a citizen, am not giving up my privacy rights to a private citizen that can sit in his living room and watch. I don't do that. And I don't think that that's even legally. Where is the feed going?
It's not going to his house, it's probably going to his business. Think about it.
Okay, where's the business located at?
That's not up to us to answer. Where's Spectrum located?
Well, I sure can look up and get their address. I'm sure I can look up Wavelength and find out where it's at.
Excellent.
So, but I'm asking you questions. And you're sitting here like you're hiding the Ark of the Covenant here. And you can't tell me where his business is located? I don't understand that. I can't address him to ask him.
Located, to be fair.
I'm sorry?
I don't know where AT&T is located, to be fair.
Well, the city doesn't have any cameras running off.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying too. Well, I find it to be very disturbing, so. But my question is, and I need an answer to that, if you are not going to put the camera on live feed, is that camera going to be removed? That's the question. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And to Mr. French's question, no.
Oh, thank you, so I'm sorry, Mr. Sean, I don't remember the rule.
No, I would like to add, if the cameras that are not going to be placed on live feed are not removed, who has access to the feed from those cameras? That, and I know, Jim, you made the comment that Mr. Fankhauser is donating the use of his cameras.
That's how I understand it.
But that's not what he has repeatedly said. It's, I've donated the cameras. I've donated the cameras. And so I guess I would like an answer to that question. Are we donating the cameras? Which mean at some point in time when, if we decide we no longer want your services, the cameras go back to Mr. Fankhauser? Or is he donating the use of the cameras? There is a difference. Kaylee.
Kaylee Lewis, 422 Wallace Avenue. I was in a meeting that Mr. Fankhauser was in with administration, and we were speaking with COSI. And I have not approached Mr. Fankhauser about this, so it's neither here nor there. But during that meeting, he had said they had asked him directly about the equipment that Wavelength, if he's donating the equipment to. And he said he is providing leasing services of the equipment. So I don't believe he is donating the equipment. At least my understanding of it, he is donating it temporarily, like how Spectrum charges you for their box, and he's just waiving that fee. So we don't own the boxes, or we don't own that stuff. It is Wavelength still. I would suggest, because I don't believe any exists at the time, that any department, administration, utility department, get together with Mr. Fankhauser and make an itemized list of the items that he has donated fully to the city and equipment that he is donating the leasing services of to the city.
And when you mention leasing, do we have a signed lease for those
No,
items?
not that I know of.
So you mentioned that at this meeting, this was discussed, or you're suggesting that there be a list? of
That
the-
was not discussed. I'm just suggesting that there be a list. That way, if something were to happen or we were to ever, part ways or anything like that, whether it's 10 administrations down the line, that there's just a list. So if anything ever happens, we're prepared.
Okay, the question then I would like to ask is, if we have cameras that are being donated to the city, or the uses of the camera are being donated to the city, would Mr. Fankhauser agree to relinquish his access to these cameras? I guess I don't understand why there's the need for you to have access to these cameras. I mean, I'm assuming you're donating to the city because you want to do what's good for the city, and so go one step further. I mean, what is the purpose of you being able to view what's on those cameras? I don't get that. And I can tell you're not going to answer the question. So, I just do not understand. Mr. Thitoff.
Ray Thitoff, 210 Ethel Street. Kurt's always up here talking, and now when we need him to talk, come on up here, Kurt. We're acting like Kurt's not here. Now's your time, man. Come on up.
Can I come up and say whatever I want?
Go for it.
Go ahead.
I never said that you could not say what you wanted. Just remember, when you approach the podium, you state your residential address, the address where you live. Which I knew that would shut you down.
Put all your requests in writing to my company.
Mr. Miller.
Max Miller, 135 East Kilbourne Drive. Lots been said. What I would like to see come out of this, besides the feed getting fixed to the police department, I think that would be hopefully number one. To me, it sounds like he's donated the ability to watch this and have access to this, is what I'm gathering. But hopefully a contract or a lease or some type of written agreement comes out of this. I think that would be best for everybody. I think everybody would feel better. Terms and conditions are outlaid. Sounds like he wants some paperwork sent to his business. So I think that would be best moving forward for everybody. So,
Thank you. The camera, or the feed, like I say, bear with me because I don't understand. What is not working right now down in the police department, is that the cameras that Mr. Fankhauser has control over?
Yes.
Then I'd like to know, why aren't they working?
I don't know.
Mr. Fankhauser's been made aware that they're not working?
I believe so.
I was made aware tonight. I did not know it prior to him saying it.
Are they working at his house?
And just for information, if I may ask, how long did you say, did you say 6 weeks?
That's what the chief of police told me.
That's, okay, thank you. Mr. French, you said the police chief told you.
The police chief informed me that he has not had access to those cameras for 6 weeks. That if he needed anything, he had to contact Mr. Fankhauser to get any type of video.
Oh, and I'm sorry, Mr. French, we do like you to come to the podium, and that's.
I'm sorry, don't want to
No, that's my goof.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Thank you.
Yes, that's what the chief of police told me.
Okay.
That he has not had access to these cameras for 6 weeks. Now, I guess my question is like I said back there, and I'm sorry, does Mr. Fankhauser have access right now to this video feed that the police cannot see, but a private citizen can see? That's my question.
And unfortunately, we don't know that answer. Only Mr. Fankhauser does.
And clearly, he doesn't want to yap like he's yapped for the last, because like I said, I come and watch this because I find that this city council is one of the most entertaining city councils that I have ever seen. And I just find it's just good entertainment.
And unfortunately, that's not what I want.
I'm sorry.
I don't think any of us want that.
I am sorry that you don't want to hear that, but sitting in my living room, watching your feed, I find it just hilarious. And I mean, the night that you threw the white-haired lady out of here, I thought that was great, man. I'm like, go get them, you know? And I'm just... And with all due respect, you know, the things that he says to you and the things that he says to the city residents is just so despicable.
Okay, thank you, Mr. French. Any more public participation? Mr. Miller.
Okay, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say Gary Miller, 616 Prospect. Now, what is going to be done when it's obvious I don't live there? And what's going to be done to the person that uses that address, and it's obvious he doesn't reside there either?
And I don't know the answer to that, Gary.
You don't. You know, he lives on Michigan Avenue or whatever it is. We know that. Nothing can be done about that? If somebody comes up and states a wrong address?
You're not under oath, it's not illegal to lie.
Okay, so I can come up and say Gary Miller, 616 Prospect?
Correct, you're not under oath.
Okay, actually, it's 800 Rogers. Two things. Why are we allowing a private citizen, great that he donated the cameras, that's great, or I don't know whether he donated the cameras or donated the service. Why are we allowing him to have access to this? Why is it not given to the city for them to have access? Why does he still have access? Can I go buy some cameras and will you guys allow me to stick them up and I can have access to them?
Could you rephrase that question?
Will you allow me to go to the art park or to go to any of these places and put cameras up where I have access to them?
If you get permission, yes.
Permission from?
The business owners, the buildings.
Nobody, I'm talking, okay, who owns the park downtown?
Well, that would be the city. You would need permission from the city.
Okay, I didn't know, I thought that someone else took care of that.
It's my understanding that the
mural
city.
parks are under the community foundation.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the city?
Nope.
Okay. So it's not under the city. So did he go to the community foundation and get there?
Yes, he did.
Okay. So, but I'm still questioning, why are we allowing a citizen to put up cameras that he can watch? And then like we just found out tonight, I guess, that the police department can't even see them.
I think we're getting the cameras confused. As stated in my letter, there are different types of cameras. There's the cameras that Kurt Fankhauser owns, that the city has access to. There are cameras that the city has that are for administrative purposes that Wavelink administers. And then there are police cameras.
Okay, so why do we not have a contract on this? Or do we?
They're donated and there's no requirement to have, I mean, to have a valid contract, you have to have consideration. When someone is doing something gratuitous, there is no consideration. Now, there's a carve-out in the law called promissory estoppel, where if you detrimentally rely on someone's promise and then they decide not to follow through on it, then you can sue them for damages related to that. However, it would be an unenforceable contract because he's receiving no consideration for it.
Okay. One other thing, I just don't understand how a sitting president can have this much ability to basically spy on people is what he's doing. It's basically what he's doing.
I was gonna say, that's assuming I've seen no
Well, I'll
evidence
tell you
of
what,
that.
he assumed that, he basically claimed that people were possibly stealing money from the Bratwurst Festival. He had no evidence of that.
That's before my time, I can't speak to that.
Well, no, I'm just saying he did. It's the truth. He claimed that possibly money was being taken. Just like you said, people were assuming that he's doing this and that. He assumed that.
I would like to make everybody aware that there are rules and regulations to being an internet service provider. You can't just decide to be an internet service provider and just hope that the FCC doesn't figure out who you are.
So he has been inspected or whatever as far as the security of his...
I don't know. That's not my purview. That would be the FCC, that'd be the state, that'd be the feds. But they're pretty strict on that kind of stuff.
So the COSI or SI that does the police, have they been checked for their security?
That would be up to the feds, the state, the
So
regulatory
do you think that
agencies that deal with
might be a
internet
good
service
idea, that
companies.
we might have somebody check this to make sure that things aren't going where they shouldn't be once he gets them?
That would have to be taken up with the regulatory agencies.
Okay. So this council can do nothing about that?
That has to do with a private business that has to follow the exact same rules as Spectrum or AT&T or Verizon or any other internet service company out there.
Okay, so basically, I feel you should just stop with him. Do it with your other cameras, your COSI, whatever, and eliminate those that he donated. There's a lot of people.
That's not my decision.
Okay, I'm just saying, I would suggest that because it doesn't seem really right that, just like the other gentleman stated, the police aren't even seeing this feed, but yet I guarantee you he's seeing it where he's got his monitors. Whether that's at 616 Prospect, or whether that's on Michigan Avenue, or whether that's at the Weaver with the room, whatever.
Gary, since I don't want to
I'm done.
it be said that I'm showing favoritism, I was going to ask you to,
I'm done.
thank you. Mr. White.
Hi, Greg White, and I do reside at 1125 Hillcrest Drive. One thing people do not understand, just like Rachel Myers is recording us, there's no expectancy in public. If you're out in public and you're in Shrine Park or you're downtown and anybody around their house that has cameras, okay, there's no expectancy in public. You can be videotaped just like she's doing of us, and that's strictly legal. If you go down to Shrine Park and want to watch the movie, and somebody wants to stand in Shrine Park and videotape you, they have every right because that is a public park. If someone wants to go to All Miller Pool and pull out their camera and videotape anybody at All Miller Pool, no matter what, there's no expectancy in public. You're allowed to videotape under the Constitution of the law. You can videotape anybody and anywhere, including public officials and police officers, while they're on their duties in public, from a public place. Now, you can't go to, like Mr. Myers' house and walk on his property and do that, but you can do it from the public sidewalk. You can walk around his house. There's no expectancy from a public area, okay? So all these people that are blowing smoke don't know what they're talking about. The law specifically states what it states. However, you go on their property, yes, there's a different story than that. Thank you.
I got a reply. Gary Miller, 800 Roger Street. I would have no problem with Mr. Fankhauser coming up to the art park and recording anything. My problem is with his fixed cameras.
Doesn't matter.
It does matter.
No, no.
It does to me.
No going back and
Okay.
forth with, thank you,
That's all
Gary.
I'm saying.
Mr. White.
You know, if he comes somewhere and records on his phone or has his camera with him, I have no problem with that.
One more time, Mr. French.
All right.
And we need to move on.
Yes, I I tried to stay away from this matter, but because the law director did bring it up with FCC licensing, I do want to agree with what Mr. White said. When you walk out of your house, you give up all your privacy rights pretty much, with one exception, and that goes to the government. When I walk onto government property, I give up my rights as far as that feed goes to a government entity. I give up all my rights. Like I had stated earlier, I am not giving up my rights to have that feed go to a private citizen in the city of Bucyrus. I don't give up that right. I give it up to the government. So Mr. White stating that nobody knows what they're talking about except him, he needs to separate the difference between the government and private people. And we're talking about the government. Now, on the FCC licensing, Mr. Fankhauser does have an FCC license. The license is William Paul Lincoln Sam 268. That was issued by the FCC. That license was issued on 6/11/2024 and is valid through 1/5/2033. Now, the license notes that it's active, that it is on a private carrier. It also says the applicant proposes to provide on a for-profit base radio communication service to eligibilities in the business radio service in accordance with 90.179 of the FCC rule. Okay? Now, that's how this license reads. I would highly suggest to the city to look and see if this FCC license covers what he is doing. See if he can even do what he's doing on government property. He can put them on private property all day long, and 1,000 of them. Can you do it on your government property? And I do not give up my right for a private citizen to view me.
Thank you. Okay, I think we'll move on. Is that okay with the committee?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Oh, sure.
Sorry.
We haven't seen you for a while.
I know, sorry. Jackie Vanek, 335 All Miller Drive. Sorry, I haven't seen you guys in a while. Been busy. I'm actually in between orders, so this will be quick. I just have a quick question, and who all here has seen the footage at All Miller Park, and who all has seen where those cameras face here? You? You have? Is my house in it?
No.
My property's not in it. So if my kids are running around my front yard, nobody can see that. Okay. That is a huge deal. Like, you're talking about children's safety, like in general, to give the public access to watch it all the time? Do you know how many creeps are out here? Do you know how many people I see driving down to All Miller Park in the middle of the night? Doing God knows what, roaming around the woods there where the Frisbee golf is? Right before I came here. As the sun was going down, we had a fire. Teenagers out there roaming around, everybody out there roaming around. It's just, I don't think publicizing children playing at a park or any park activity is a good idea. Surveillance of it, I wish I could be more included in this conversation, but I have to go. Coverage of it, okay, as long as it's appropriate and it's correct and it's done correctly, right? Do not put other people's children in danger. Do not put my children in danger. Okay? Please, please. Because I live in fear every day, living on that street. My kids are all playing that somebody's going to snatch them up. Please take that into accountability. They better not be pointed towards my house at all. My property better not even be within view, because from where they're at right now, they should be, because if they're covering the softball field right there, you can see my front yard. And I have a huge problem with that. Better not be the case. Because y'all, that is bad news.
think hard about this, please. Like, you don't, you're live streaming it to whoever can get on the website and watch it. Predators, 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 predators. That is all I should have to say. And if you have children, you get it. Even if you don't, you should. Please, think about it. And I still respect everybody here, but please, think about it, okay?
Okay.
Okay, sorry, I gotta go. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Okay, next we have the approval of minutes. I'll ask for a motion to approve the October 17th, 2024 regular Health and Safety Committee meeting minutes.
So moved. I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Myers, second by Ms. Sherry. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next on the agenda is the ODOT replacement signs. And the only thing that I have that was provided to me was a copy of the resolution that's been prepared, and if the committee is in favor, will be presented at tonight's special council meeting for consideration. Now, I did notice that the ODOT replacement signs was also referred to the Platting Committee.
So it's a gray area. So health and safety kind of regulates kind of those ODOT signs that we see, correct? Where you see maybe a hospital sign or your exit signs for the highway. But platting, it has in there specified underneath it that it's for signs.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
We've done these consent agreements with ODOT in the past. Have they been with platting or health and safety?
They varied, so sometimes it's been platting and sometimes it's been health and safety.
And the reason I ask the question is, who's going to be the sponsor of the legislation?
I would think that since they're replacing them, I mean, platting would be technically the service of replacing them.
So then we should stop discussing.
Defer that to
Yeah,
platting.
we'll defer that to platting.
Thanks.
The ODOT replacement. Okay. We had our discussion on wavelength and cameras. Well, I should say the public. We had public participation on that. So I guess now committee.
Vicki, do you just want one of us to talk, or how do you want us to handle this?
I hate to say I don't know. My mind's just, I'm sorry. I apologize to the public. This is...
Overwhelming.
It is. It is. So basically, what we're looking at for this committee is if we want to have a resolution prepared which sets forth a camera policy. In other words, what cameras we're saying are not to be on live feed. I mean, the administration, if I'm understanding correctly, has already decided it's live feed. We're out of the picture on that?
I have a question about that one.
But we can say what cameras are live feed and what cameras aren't.
Correct.
Okay? Now,
And that's where our committee comes into play. We would be requesting legislation identifying what cameras are allowed to have live feed done.
Yes, and listening to the public, they want everything, say at the swimming pool, to go to COSI, to the police department, and the SSD's office only.
Correct.
So that's a lot of money for 21 cameras. And we have to decide whether we need actually 21 cameras out there or not. So we have to look at what the cameras are pointed at, what they're looking at, and decide what we need out there. So.
Aaron?
Okay. First of all, yeah, we would have to see what would be where. And even then, if it's being sent to someplace like COSI, is that the only group that's going to have it go to them other than the police station? Or is it still going through Wavelink and all of that, which sounds like people are very distrusting of? Then there's the question of, like a contract. I'm sorry, if I donate something, I give it to you. I don't play take backsies, I don't. And if I'm leasing something to you, I should be giving you a written whatever. Like, if I gave you this tablet as a lease, and I'm the one working on it when something's wrong, who's replacing it if I break it? Do I blame you because you were using it and when it broke and you got to replace it? Or do I blame me? So like, these are things that should be in writing somewhere. So there should be some sort of contractual agreement for everything, not just where we're putting what camera feed, when, why, and how. I'm sorry, no. And to say these things don't have value, how much would it cost for us to supply the internet for all of these cameras, as well as the internet up here, and to supply all these cameras? What dollar amount are we at? Because I'm sorry, if I donate something, I can use that as a tax write-off. So the government states that there's a value to that. Whether I donated it and gave it to you for free or not, there's still a value. So there is a value we're talking about.
So Aaron, if you inspect the Ethics Committee report, opinion that I gave you, it specifically says that Mr. Fankhauser and Wavelink are not allowed to write it off on their taxes.
Yeah, but it's still a value. What I'm stating is...
The problem with consideration is what value is he getting?
Right now, from the fears of the people, a lot.
Contract? Like what would make it an enforceable contract?
So now we reiterate the fact that, so when he gets mad or something happens, he can literally cut everything immediately with no notice because there's no contract. So if there's not an enforceable contract and he can do these things, we are now completely unsafe and unsure of what is going on.
Correct, and the flip side of that is the city's more than free to walk away from him without any notice as well.
I think that the administration needs to think very hard on that one.
But Spectrum, they could walk away from us if we had Spectrum.
They have to do a certain notice.
I was going to say,
there's a lot of rules.
There's a lot of rules, and that would be an enforceable contract.
There's a lot of rules.
As far as being asked about which cameras we want to consider private and public, no, you looked at me, I'm sorry.
Mr. Myers?
As far as the cameras that we're being asked to ascertain or to say which ones are private and public.
Right.
I think it would behoove each of us to come in and have an appointment with the administration and look at each one of them. And I don't want to sit here tonight without even having seen them to know. I'm not going to make an opinion on that right now. So I think we need to do that, do our due diligence when we talk about it.
Aaron?
So we're back to, when is this going live?
That's up to the administration.
Well, they already answered, that's really up to Wavelink.
And we don't have a contract.
So I'm guessing we're gonna wait a while there, Mr. Mayor, correct?
Do whatever you want. You want to wait, we'll wait.
We'll wait, okay?
We'll wait. So that decision has been made here and now. That's why we're here, to
Okay.
discuss and make a decision.
Aaron?
Mr. Law Director,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Slater brought up a very valid idea of new legislation about who and what and why things can be donated to the city. What group would we send that to? Like what committee? Since that's part of this topic?
That would go through finance.
Okie dokie. Thanks.
Okay, so it's a suggestion of Mr. Myers. We're going to make, each one of us will make an appointment, whether it's, well, yeah, no more than 2 of us at a time, so we don't violate the sunshine laws. Are you fine with that, Mayor, with us coming in and? I just.
My office is open every day.
And then we're going to look at the cameras.
I've only seen a few of you in my office.
And find out what cameras are where, and what cameras then we do not want to be on live stream. Am I understanding you correctly, Mr. Myers?
I mean, if we're being asked to have an opinion, we should have some knowledge to have the opinion about.
Got it. Okay, is that fine then to table it for right now, committee?
We're going to have to, yes.
Yes, okay. Next on the agenda, marijuana. I'm not going to say anything.
What are you thinking? You need something?
Just for information purposes, to let everyone know that we did receive from Mr. Gobrick my papers, drafts for Chapter 704, which has to do with licensed medical marijuana, cultivators, processors, retail dispensaries, and testing laboratories. And then Chapter 705, dealing with state licensed adult use marijuana, cultivators, processors, retail dispensers, and testing laboratories. We got these the 4th of this month. I also emailed copies of them to Mr. Keefe, our zoning director, administrator. So at this point in time, I'm not wanting to do anything or talk about them. I just wanted to let the public know that we do have something prepared now. We need to look over, get Mr. Keefe's comments if he has any, and then we'll discuss at the next committee meeting. All right, that's marijuana. Next is Bucyrus Codified Ordinance, Chapter 505, Animals and Fowls. Bear with me on this one, please. At the last Health and Safety Committee meeting on October 17th, we received from Mr. Gobrick the Bucyrus Codified Ordinance, Chapter 505, which had been previously prepared by former Law Director Gernert. Mr. Gobrick has now done some edits to that draft. Mr. Gobrick then received, on November the 6th, a letter from Police Chief Ossenheimer with his added input to the chapter. Recently, we just had an annual update of the Bucyrus Codified Ordinances, and in looking at those, it reveals that there has been now placed under Chapter 505 an Ohio Revised Code inclusion of Section 505.16, which is entitled Rights of Blind, Deaf or Hearing Impaired, or Mobility Impaired Person or Trainer with Assistance Dog. So now we'll need to incorporate that into our Chapter 505, because we didn't have that currently in there because it's just now been updated.
As well as the opinion from the police chief on a lot of things.
Yes, I said that we
Yeah.
received that letter from the police chief with his added input. So we need time to look over Chief Ossenheimer's letter and see what changes he is suggesting to the Chapter 505. So nothing tonight, just again to let the public know that this is what's happening with drafts and what have you. Now, a follow-up to 505. Let me get my paperwork. At our last Health and Safety Committee meeting, we had Susan Fritz and Rebecca Green with the Tap Neuter Return Program. They came and spoke. At the same time, we had Victoria Caldwell, who is the executive director of the Humane Society serving Crawford County. She also spoke about TNR. She stated it was her understanding that there have been no legal issues with anybody regarding the TNR, and questioned why we would want more government intervention, regulation, and oversight. Because people have been doing the TNR program for years. She went on to say that in an article from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, it stated that feral cat colonies that are being managed or permitted or registered groups actually open cities up for risk of litigation when unsuspecting citizens are bitten and scratched. Therefore, it was suggested by Mrs. Caldwell, Mrs. Fritz, and Mrs. Green that the ladies meet among themselves and discuss how they wish the TNR program to proceed. And all parties were in agreement. So at that time, it was decided TNR, we're not doing anything with it. We're just letting the ladies do it. Well, while the ladies were out in the hallway having their discussion, Mr. Fankhauser approached the podium and stated that he and Caldwell had just talked, and he had asked Caldwell if she would be, and I quote, willing to serve on an ad hoc committee for this specific topic with the cats. He suggested committee members could include Caldwell, Fritz, Green, a local vet, citizen Phil Jakonowitz, and the Health and Safety Committee chair. Mr. Fankhauser further stated that this would not be the traditional ad hoc committee, but rather an ad hoc committee that is self-governed, meets as they please, and then reports back to the Health and Safety Committee for its final review before sending it to full council. I reminded Fankhauser that, Mr. Fankhauser, that Mrs. Caldwell had previously stated that the TNR should not be a part of the Bucyrus Codified Ordinance, so I was unclear why he was suggesting the establishment of an ad hoc committee.
I'd like to address what Mr. Fankhauser is doing.
I would like to approach the council with that.
Please.
This is just.
What happened?
Yeah, what happened?
Mr. Fankhauser.
Just came in and threw bags at this
City
one.
Council president comes in and drops 2 bags off of a clown cat, and I come from Galion, Ohio. I come to visit your town. I'm sorry, I'm trying to.
I totally understand.
Mayor, I'm going to address you. I come to visit your city, okay? I spend my money in your city. I come to address this council with a very concerned citizen that I have of my privacy and your feed going to God knows where. And
Mr.
because...
French, I totally get it.
Please address this. Please address this.
Would you like to...
I would like to talk to the officer of some sort of... This is pitiful. I don't even really want to stay anymore. I've had enough, so... Okay, I'll sit down. I guess wait for you.
So if I may go on, I questioned Mr. Fankhauser why he was even bringing up the establishment of an ad hoc committee. After the Health and Safety Committee meeting, I approached Mrs. Caldwell in the hallway, and I questioned her also about Fankhauser's statement that she and he had discussed the establishment of an ad hoc committee to, quote, discuss this specific topic with the cats. Mrs. Caldwell informed me that the ad hoc committee was not for discussing the cat topic, but rather to review the entire Chapter 505 and make suggested revisions to same, because they, meaning the Humane Society and the TNR women, know the different sections or, to do with dogs, cats, what have you.
Can I offer a suggestion?
Yes, go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt you there.
I'm almost done.
You want me to let you finish?
Please.
Go ahead.
So my question to Mr. Gobrick was, is it fine for Mrs. Caldwell, Mrs. Green, Mrs. Fritz, Mr. Draconowitz, if he is wanting to serve on the committee, and someone from the Health and Safety Committee meeting, as well as a veterinarian, if they just get together among themselves. We don't involve the government, if you will, because if you do an ad hoc committee that the council establishes, then they have to adhere to the notice of the meeting. And then they have to make sure, depending on how many members, that they can't be out and about and have more than they're supposed to for fear of, violating the sunshine law. And as he pointed out, to answer the question, as long as there is not a quorum of council and committee members, that yes. So I have spoke with Mrs. Caldwell. She's just waiting to hear from me. I said I need to discuss with the committee, see what their thoughts are. But looking at, we are still going to look at Chapter 505. We're going to look at what Mr. Ossenheimer has given for his input. But then this group is also going to be discussing from their point of view or what have you. They will give to us their suggested revisions. The committee will look those over. We will then, at a set committee meeting, then discuss those changes and then decide what revisions will be made to Chapter 505.
Exactly where I was going to suggest, similar to what Service Committee is doing with the 900 series.
Yep.
We can send it as a committee to whomever we want to get their opinions.
So how committee, Jim?
Agreed.
Aaron?
I have a question.
Sure.
My number one question. It has always been full council that creates ad hocs. Why do they keep being brought to committees if it's not something that the committee can do? If full council is the ones that have to create an ad hoc.
Well, once an ad hoc's, correct me if I'm wrong, but once an ad hoc committee is established by council.
Right. But
then it never goes back to the quote originating committee, if you will. It's just like your ad hoc on
but we did that in
property
council.
maintenance. When you folks are done with that, you will report directly back to council as a whole, not to the Health and Safety Committee.
But that was also created by full council. We have yet to create a committee out of a committee.
Well, this isn't,
And it's not necessary, but I'm just saying, every time we turn around, our committees are getting bombarded with, you should make an ad hoc. But that's not a committee function, that's a council function.
Yes, definitely.
Right, so first off, I would just, every time that gets brought up at a committee, I ignore it because it's not a function of the committee, it's gotta be brought to full council.
Yes, you are correct. It is the council that
But
does
secondly,
establish
from the
ad
sounds of
hoc.
it, it's like getting the Kiwanis together. I mean, this isn't even a city thing. If they want to ask a member of the city to be a part of it, that's one thing, but they're doing this on their own. This isn't us, so.
Right. And so that's why,
Yeah.
and so what you're saying is, I don't really need to ask your permission.
Right.
Great.
And I would further say, since we're dealing with it in 505, I'd like to request that we take the TNR off of our open project
And
list.
yes, and I was, yes.
And I will second that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Just being the transparency so that the public understands where, things are going. Okay, so trap, neuter, return is off our open projects list. I will get with Mrs. Caldwell and then she will get with her group. Next on the agenda, sex offenders. This is sex offenders and spaces for children and families. We have received an opinion from Mr. Gobrit on that. May I ask you to explain your opinion?
Sure.
And I have a copy here if you need to refer to that.
Thank you. Right, so the upshot of my opinion is I've inspected the codified ordinances of other cities and they have done it. However, it's probably not enforceable if it gets challenged in court. But there's no reason we can't have it on the books.
So committee, your thoughts?
I would put it on just in case it is enforceable.
So we would like to request that Mr. Gobrit prepare a draft
legislation for
legislation
us
dealing with that
to go
topic?
through?
Yes.
For us to review?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Moving right along, food trucks. Let's see. And this was my lapse here. We did receive back on October the 17th draft chapter and also an ordinance from Mr. Gobrick. That was passed on to the Health and Safety Committee and Platting. I just realized the other day that I also wanted the mayor and the Service Safety Director to also look at these documents, as well as Chief Schwemley and Mike Keefe with the zoning office. So I just emailed those documents to them on November the 6th for their review, and I indicated that we'll be looking at the next committee meeting, November 21st, then to discuss the food truck.
Did you get their recommendations on here on the food trucks? They had recommendations. Did you give them those papers I gave you today?
They were handed out in August, but I didn't repass them out, no.
Is that something, Mike, that you want to talk about when we have our final public participation? Did you indicate to me, or if not, we'll just see that we get them from Mike, although
Okay.
I know that we had them.
Yeah, you should have already received them in the past.
Yeah.
I think it was like,
We'll double check on that to make sure.
August. Yeah.
Excuse me?
I presented it August.
Right,
5th.
mm-hmm. Okay, I'll double check and make sure that those were in fact
Yeah.
passed on to Mr. Gilbert. Okay. All right, open projects. Anything on our open projects list?
No, ma'am.
Aaron?
No, ma'am.
Okey dokey. Then public participation again. 1 second, Ken. No, I'm teasing.
Please.
She was teasing.
I'm being slap happy, I'm sorry.
You okay?
Yeah,
All
I
right,
think so.
All right. Ken Long, 625 South Spring Street. I've got about 4 or 5 items. I'm going to be really quick. A question on the law director's comment about you guys talking about this unenforceable item, but you're still going to jam it through? Is that a fair statement? We're going to create legislation that's not enforceable, and we're going to see what sticks?
I didn't say it wasn't enforceable, I said it was likely unenforceable. The courts haven't spoken directly to the legislation that's been on the books in other cities.
Okay.
However, given the legal climate from the Supreme Court of the United States, I don't necessarily think it would stand a constitutional challenge, but there's nothing
Saying that it won't.
saying that it won't.
Okay. I just want to see if that's how we're going to do government, is we think it's not going to be enforceable, but we're going to put it on the books anyway, and we'll let somebody else decide. So that seems odd to me, kind of counterproductive. That's just my comment. So, next item, Property Maintenance Committee.
That's not here. That's not health and safety.
Okay, remember, we've had this conversation, how many different meetings, Ken?
I know I've been doing this for 9 months.
It was
I do know that.
originally in the Health and Safety Committee. It was then taken out of the Health and Safety Committee and moved over to the Ad hoc Committee for Property Maintenance.
I would email the person who's in charge of the Property Maintenance Committee with your questions and your thoughts so they can get it figured out.
So you want my email?
No, I don't. That wasn't what was said 4 weeks ago. I guess it went to the law director for his review.
It's in the process of being taken care of.
Okay.
Written up.
So when will we get a result?
You want a timeline?
Yes.
This is health and safety. It's not the same committee.
So
Okay,
you're saying you should.
So you should email him and get your questions and answers through email, not during a whole different committee meeting.
So it's not in
It
this
fall,
committee.
I guess, am I confused then? Because I thought this was under health and safety. the committee is responsible for
It's
this.
been kicked out to an ad hoc committee.
Yes.
So
So when it gets kicked out to ad hoc, then...
It's done
then-
here.
Then
Can't
it's
be
a done deal.
discussed.
Okay, then, one question to go along with then, how do I get this thing moving? Who do I talk to?
Aaron, would you like to repeat what you had said earlier?
Please email the chair of the the ad hoc committee. Mr. Me is the chair of the ad hoc committee, and thus you want to send your questions and everything to that committee chair so that he can then see what exactly it is and work on it outside of this committee because it is not in this committee.
I'm crystal clear now.
I'm requesting that you email me so we have documents and dates and we have.
Okay, all right.
We have a trail, okay?
Yes. Splash pad. Let me know which committee is responsible for this, because I'm not sure. About a month ago, there was discussion here at Council about the cost of the water per day. I'd made that request, never heard about it, and so I just want to know which committee, because I don't want to get shot down again on this.
I believe that's public lands and buildings.
Public land. Okay, thank you.
Wait, cost of water?
I mean, it would be service and public lands that was referred to, so. He could talk in public lands about it. You just wouldn't be able to respond.
Just for clarification, I'm just concerned about what the cost is per day for the splash pad to run. And so if that's a finance thing, I'm okay. I'd just like to get that worked out right now so I go to the right place and save council a bunch of time.
I can have Tommy send that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Miranda.
Okay. Circling back to 505, when I started this about 4 months ago about the dog bite, and then somehow the cat people took over, and now we're not even talking about dog bites. And so
That's not correct.
No.
We're not talking about the cat people right now.
Right. No,
The dog stuff is still very much active. We are going to review it. We've had some changes, as Mrs. DeShawn just stated. The police chief had some input, the law director had some input, so we have to make some further adjustments to the proposed legislation.
So there's no ideas on time on that either?
Well, sir, we just got the letter from the police chief this week. We just got the update from the law director this week, so we're going to continue to look at them.
Is that would that be on the agenda then?
That's chapter 505.
It was on our agenda tonight.
Yes.
Under 505?
Yeah.
Okay, because the only thing that was mentioned was just the cat portion of that, and I thought the rest of it fell off, so, okay, I understand. All right, thank you.
And you're looking at me, why?
Want to know if I can start or not. Greg White, 1125 Hillcrest Drive. Two things just to end, and you can shake your head all you want. Number one is a lot of information was given out tonight by several people. But however, no one has brought any facts to the case.
Information on what?
Everything that was discussed about the contract for the cameras and the internet service. Okay? Bunch of words, but no actual factual proof of anything. And that's what you need, factual proof of everything. Second of all, is this council ready and the city ready to spend money on cameras, internet service and everything in the budget for 2025? You guys have a plan in case something is like Aaron said here, if Mr. Kurt takes his stuff and ceases to desist with the city of Bucyrus?
Ceases to desist.
Don't
Yeah,
ask.
cancels, cuts your internet off. Okay? And everything else, is this city ready to spend the kind of money that you're going to need to get a company in here and do everything? I mean, basically, you're looking at probably starting at $250,000
Ooh,
or more.
we have a value.
Okay? Thank you for interrupting. You're good at that. So basically, that's what I'm asking you guys, and I'm going to bring it up in Finance Committee too. Is the city ready to take over every aspect of service that you get? And I understand there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and I think they need to be answered fully and totally. Thank you.
Any other public participation?
Yeah, Madam Chairman.
Yes, Mayor?
At this present time, I'd like to address what has recently happened tonight. I would like to address Mr. French and Mr. Miller. I apologize to both of you. As a mayor of the city of Bucyrus, what happened just recently tonight was totally uncalled for. It should have never happened, and I do apologize to both of you.
I accept your apology, but you should not be the one apologizing.
Yeah.
I also accept your apology too, and I hope that you follow up whatever recourse your administration has for this type of action. I feel deeply uncomfortable sitting here. I'm waiting to be escorted by the officer out to my car. So I just have to wait for a break to ask.
I don't need to be
I'm sick of everybody. I don't sleep here. Whether it's behind bars or in my car.
Did you have anything else to say, Mayor? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Bruce.
Any other public participation? Okay, seeing no one, we will adjourn the meeting at 7:54 PM.
Lands and Buildings Committee, November 7th, 2024.
I'm calling Public Lands and Buildings to order at 7:58 PM. Members present are Zion Hickman, Christopher Moritz, and myself, Sierra Sherrick, as chair. Ms. Carolyn Shireman is absent. First on the list, do we have any public participation for Public Lands and Buildings?
Ken Long, 625 South Spring Street. We probably know why I'm here, so I'm ready to find out why. I'm interested in the figure for the splash pool per day.
Okay. I'm glad that you brought that to this committee since it was sent to this committee, but as Ms. Miranda has already told you, she will ask Mr. Starner for that information because we do not have it here tonight, and he is also not here tonight, so we couldn't get that information from him at this moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public participation? All right. Next, I would entertain a motion for the approval of minutes from October 17th, 2024, regular Public Lands and Buildings Committee meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Hickman, which was seconded by Mr. Moritz. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll give the aye, so we've got the 3, and it has passed. So next on here is wavelength and cameras. Is there any other information to be added to the conversation that was had in the previous committee?
Don't have any information, but I'd like to make a couple of statements.
Yes, sir.
In regards to wavelength as just the internet, I had brought up in August that this has been running in the city since April. We still have no contract, no guidelines. It's November now, so that's 7 months without any written guidelines, any written contracts, anything that restricts or puts in writing what wavelength can and cannot do. And also finding out tonight that the cameras are leased and not fully donated, and that there's no contract for the lease either. There is a very large issue here with transparency on the fact that so many things have been given to the city by wavelength, and we don't have any of it in writing. Nothing is in writing. We don't know what he can and can't do outside of what the FCC can restrict him to do and what he cannot do. And with the internet, I found out this week that the password for the admin was just changed. It's supposed to be on rotation. Why is it not on rotation? We don't know that because we don't have a contract saying it's supposed to be. There are things going on with these two items in particular, and there's no form of writing at all that tells us what he can and cannot do. And that, to me, is my biggest concern, outside of the cameras at the park. And that was already discussed in length, the issue with that. I'm glad that we have the ability now to go through and say which cameras we do and don't want live streamed. But in the same breath, why don't we just turn over all of the cameras to COSI for the police department to use fully? That would, to me, be the biggest problem solver here, is that the police have full control over those cameras. I have no problem with certain cameras being live streamed if we can do that, and we have the capacity to do so. But the biggest concern with the public is, why not just give everything to the police department? Not in a lease, not in some other form of communication, everything. Regarding just the cameras.
Thank you. Anything else?
No.
You pretty much said it. So no.
All right, thank you. Okay, so, and since we know that that is a work in progress, I believe that's a whole lot of information for a whole lot of people to mull over for a minute. So, that being said, can we move on to open projects? Do we have anything that we need to talk about in open projects this evening?
I do not.
At this time, I have nothing.
Okay, so do we have any more public participation for public lands and buildings?
Just as for informational purposes, I hear a lot of back and forth between like Wavelength or COSI when it comes to cameras, and I have no idea price-wise who would be better, what would be going on. But we have used other vendors in the past. I know from just when I paid the bills, I believe like Quentin Boyd owned a company that we paid at one point in time. So it doesn't, as far as I know, it doesn't have to be one or the other. So just keep that in mind while you guys are discussing it.
Thank you so much. Okey doke. Do we have anything else? All right, then I'm going to adjourn Public Lands and Buildings at 8:04 p.m.
Platting Committee, November 7th, 2024.
What time is it, Aaron?
It is 8:06 p.m., sir.
8:06. Plating is called to order with Aaron Sherrick, Carolyn Shireman's absent, Vicki DeShawn, James Mee as chair. Public participation as far as plating goes. Nada. Could I have the approval of the minutes for the October 17th, 2024 regular Platting Committee meeting?
Mr. Mee, I would like to make a motion for the approval of minutes for the October 17th, 2024 regular Platting Committee meeting.
Thank you, Aaron. Can I get a second?
I second that.
Thank you, Vicki. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Here we go. Amendment, the Bucyrus codified ordinance to include ponds. So the first thing that was on there that I asked before was the fencing. The fencing can go to the BZA, get rid of this gnat. All right, the changes to the ordinances that Mr. Goldberg has put to the side, have everybody went over those, and are we good with those changes?
Well, I need their comments, so it's like,
So we need a better definition of consider adding swimming pools, swimming to the pools. Comment, hot tubs cannot by operation this ordinance be considered ponds anyway, because they are not excavations, unless you mean to specify regulations in grounds and hot tubs. So that's what your comments mean, to readjust the wording.
Correct.
But you haven't. You've pointed to the wording and saying, hey, here's my comment. This is not a good definition. So you're waiting for us to say, okay, make a good definition?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna let him make the good definition,
Yes.
because he's really good at it, so. Okay, what is it, Vicki?
Well, I've read his comments and I have no, I'm fine with your comments. I mean, when you say, you know, consider adding swimming to the pools. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with all your comments. Now, the one thing that I'm looking for here in my eyes are, Jim, what did you say about the fence?
It says under 1189.021,
Now,
under D,
1187.021, okay.
1187.021
Gotcha.
ponds, under D,
Got
any
it.
pond on the property
Okay,
on which the pond is located shall be enclosed by a wall or fence or construction. So it says in the beginning, any pond or property. So pond resides within the property. So he does not have, Mr. Deidler does not have to have a fence in between his house and his pond. He wants to look at his pond outside.
Okay.
I agree with that.
okay.
Okay, so on the north side of his property, he has a 8-foot fence. So all he needs is the south side and the back. But, and down below here, it says in chapter 1147, request a variance from the provision of the Bucyrus Code ordinance, so you can ask for a provision on that too, so.
Okay,
Or
so,
anyone else can in the future. This is not just Mr. Deibler,
Right.
this is the future.
so we're saying that there needs to be a fence, but it doesn't need, the pond doesn't need to be fenced. As long as his property is fenced and the
Yes.
pond is within that fence.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, now we need to
but he
also,
can also go to BZA and ask for a variance.
anyone can.
Right, or yes, anyone can, yes.
And we also have to keep in mind, there's also, on A, it says, no pond shall be permitted to be built at any other location where the total cumulative property size is 1.5, which we're going to change the wording of that, but the context stays the same.
Okay.
Yes?
Correct.
Okay, so that's less than 1% of the properties in Bucyrus are, so we're talking about a very few properties that this is going to affect that want to build a pond.
Now, this particular issue, this wasn't anything that the men were going to talk about that are here tonight,
Yes,
Mr.
they
Dunn?
are, and yes, and I have a whole list of
Gotcha,
them.
okay, okay.
Okay. So are we good? Okay, you go ahead.
One part that I had been, I know that you commented by adding, considering defining garden ponds as garden pools.
Right.
Yes.
But people do refer to them as ponds, so if you did pond/pool, just so that people understand, because it goes on to say that it's not by definition an actual pond, but when they're looking for this stuff, they're looking for it in the terms that they know it as. So, I mean, kind of both in there would be great, but yeah. Just saying, I mean, because it makes sense to have it, but if I'm looking for a ruling on something, if I don't know it as that, I'm gonna be confused, and I know everybody gets that way.
So when you're doing a search.
So when you're doing a search, if you're looking for a garden pond and there's no such thing as a garden
Right.
pond in the ordinance, you know, you're like,
Gotcha.
well, they don't have a rule on this.
Okay.
So,
Before this goes any further, I want to say this goes back to Mr. Goldberg. Mr. Goldberg writes it, it comes back to us.
Right.
Well,
We're
that's
going to look it
wise.
over again. We're not going
Yeah.
to push it through. Okay, everybody's good with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, the next thing that's just on this piece of legislation is pond designation suggestions by Mr. Keefe and Dylan.
So that is something we do not have. What you're looking at, Jim?
Miranda, do they have it? Did you put it in their packet?
Yeah, we should have a copy.
It was on documents on demand?
The copy of the ponds?
No.
I don't know what he's doing now.
Topics of the zoning and the plating department, ponds design suggestions. The papers that I gave you today.
They were in the packet in which they were first discussed. They weren't placed on documents on demand because they weren't given to me 24 hours ahead of time.
I didn't want them on documents on demand. I wanted
Right.
them handed to them tonight.
Right.
Anyway. How can I
Explain
handle
them.
this?
Just
That's okay.
explain them to us.
I'm just trying
We'll
to figure
listen.
out a way to explain it. So we have suggestions from Dylan from McKeever's and Mike from zoning that we want to add on to this. Now, our law director has said we need to put this in the permit in zoning. Well, zoning has come back and said, no, we need to put this in the legislation. So I guess over the next few minutes, what we're going to decide is to whether leave it in the permit on zoning. And the reason they don't want it in there is because future management can come in and change it. And if it's in the legislation, they have to go through council to change it. And that's why they think it should be back in, but we're going to hear from them. So, Mike or Dylan, either one?
Either one of us. All right, Dylan Wyatt from McKeever's. So what Mike and I have really talked about on this is that how this is written currently is very open. If you have an acre and a half and you're willing to put a fence around your property, you can build whatever pond you want. And I think there really needs to be some more restrictions on it. I'll let Mike go over his list of things, but I will tell you some of the things that I thought. I don't care whether these go through zoning for the permit, because they're really more form and function type of items. But really just from a safety and a future maintenance standpoint, there's ponds around town that are better defined as swamps, I would guess. And I really think that we should try to avoid that. So things like the side slopes going down into the water, so you have a safe side slope, but not so flat that it has a tendency to grow cattails. Having rock around the edges to a specified depth, again, to prevent it from growing cattails. And then I think there needs to be some type of a requirement for a plan review process. We're going to be, if we're putting ponds in, we're going to be altering drainage paths. And we need to be able to look at that as the city and say that we are not going to poorly affect the neighboring properties. So I think that that can be done. Obviously, these are going to be individuals doing this, not businesses. So with businesses, we require a full topographic survey and design plans signed off by an engineer. I don't know that that's all necessary here, but I think it's worth at least. Our county has contour data on their GIS website. You can use that to determine how water's flowing, at least at a gross level across your property. And they can use that to show what the pond is going to look like and how emergency and primary overflows will route through the property onto any neighboring properties or onto city storm sewer, whatever that may be. site plan, flood routing, primary emergency overflows, and then just a statement in the ordinance that all portions of both the embankment from the dirt that comes out of the pond and the pond itself be outside of any easements, setbacks, those types of things. Not just the pond out of the setbacks. We don't want setbacks in a lot of places here in town are also easements for utilities. We don't want somebody putting a 12-foot tall mound on top of our water line or storm sewer or sanitary sewer, whatever that may be.
Clean house.
Yeah, or clean outs, yeah. I'll let Mike take his part.
Yeah, we had some of the recommendations or ideas. Dylan mentioned on the plan, all the contour data is on the county auditor's website. You just can go on the GIS and turn on the contour layer, and it shows you what the contours of the properties are. I think a plan would be good, showing the dimensions of the pond and the placement on the property, minimum setbacks from the property lines. I think it would be good to, I guess it would just depend on the size of the pond for the property for minimum setbacks from the property lines. Show square footage and acreage of the property on a plan that's being submitted. Some barriers, either fencing or earth berm, to show if that's going to be done with the excess spoils taken out of the pond. Overflows, emergency overflows for flood routing, that would need to get some approval. Bank slopes, nothing greater than 2-to-1 slope going down into the bottom of the ponds. Embankment stone, that would be determined on the design review. No maximum depth is set. Fees for the review of the pond. Presently, our stormwater plan review is $350. So that would have to be looked at. And eventually, zoning and planning permit fees would be added, as well as the BZA review of the pond submittal. That's our recommendations.
So your recommendation is every pond needs to go through BZA?
Yes.
And your recommendation that this pond designation suggestion be in the ordinance?
It's up to you all. I think it's wise. I don't think there's any reason for these rules to change, I guess. You know, when we're looking at modifying some of these ordinances, the reason we're putting stuff and as a policy with zoning and engineering is because there's a potential for some of it to change over time. Really don't know that that's the case in pond.
Okay. Wouldn't it, for future future mayors or whatever that would want to change it, if it was in the zoning office, they could actually change it without coming to council.
Correct. Yes.
Thoughts?
I like the idea of having it in there, and not in the zoning office, but actually in the legislation.
Legislation? I think we all agree it's legislation.
All right.
And we put that in the legislation, and
Yes,
you have the list.
I don't have a list,
You will get one.
but if you can get me one, I'll be more than happy to put it in the
Well,
legislation.
Miranda's got two in her office, probably. Probably in the trash can, but.
Not yet.
All right, this is tabled then until we get a draft containing all that.
Excellent.
Perfect. Told you I was gonna give you work to do.
Well, good. Give me all the work you want. Let's get the city back on track.
I'm trying, brother. All right, 35-2024, 1189.03 resurfacing. So it had been brought to my attention that we needed to add, let me find it. Here's what we added to it. All commercial and industrial areas shall have any area that is typically designated for parking purposes of any kind to be surfaced by either concrete or asphalt. That was the only piece that we added to this since we've seen it last time. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
I think that's the final piece to this puzzle.
Correct.
Mr. Dillon, or Jeff, either one.
All right, just one thing to add here. So in part C, or in item C, we exclude single-family dwelling units from these requirements, but then we never say what single-family dwelling units have to have. So general practice in the city is that they're allowed to have a dustless stone as a surface wearing course. However, they still have to have the concrete apron inside the right-of-way. So I think it would be good to add a separate line item defining what single-family dwelling units are required to have.
Okay. So what would you think, add a 3 in there? I lost it.
No, I think you want it.
Yeah, I think either way, so item C
Yeah.
and then below it, items 1 and 2 almost seem like they're at the same level. They're each individually describing the surfacing in different areas. So I will leave that up to the law director to determine the actual level that they're at. But yeah, I think it's easiest just added as a separate line item. If we're going to specifically exclude it from one area, we should tell them what it needs to be after that.
Did you follow along with that, Mr. Goldberg?
Kind of.
Would you explain it one more time?
Yeah. So in item C, it says all off-street parking and loading areas located in the downtown business district, except for parking areas servicing single-family dwelling units, shall be properly graded on and on and on, constructed using asphalt, concrete, cement, or other similar materials. And then down in item number 2, below that, we say all off-street parking and loading areas in other zoning districts except for parking areas serving single-family residential uses shall comply with the surface requirements found herein. But then we never say what single-family residential surfacing requirements are.
Gotcha, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so do you understand what he wants them to say?
Yes, I understand.
And these apron in between the sidewalks and the, gotcha. So we'll put this on hold for the 9th month.
And another thing, this is Joe Dunn, Service Garage Foreman. Landon asked me to bring up underneath number 1, it says all commercial industrial areas. He thinks it should say uses instead of areas.
All commercial and industrial uses.
Yeah, should have an area.
Okay.
So would it be all areas used for industrial and commercial? Or all areas designated commercial and industrial use? There you go.
There you go.
Where are we at again now?
We're on number 1.
All
C1.
right.
C1.
C1, gotcha, okay.
I'm sorry, C1, yeah.
I got you.
Thanks, Aaron. She's got me covered.
I got you. I got your back.
Okay, so we have 3 changes to this piece of legislation. Is that what you got?
That's what I got.
Okay. You got that? All right. It's my backup. All right, everybody good? Nothing else on that one?
Okay.
You're good. Go on.
Okay, now we're to 316 and 320 Woodlawn. We're changing that. I'd like to change that to a R3 from an AR apartment residential to an R3 because the church, the Rebonds would like to build an accessory structure beside their church.
Did we figure out anything that went with changing the whole map? I know that was one of the things that we were looking at, was changing the zoning map.
Yes, and that is in ad hoc committee right now.
I mean, shouldn't it?
Let's just change this so they can move forward. We
Okay.
don't want to hold them up. I don't want to hold them up. That's why I want to move it
have no
forward.
problems moving forward with it, I know.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Do we
I
need
do
to-
have
So we need to take that to the planning committee, right?
planning commission,
Planning commission?
but I do have a question about the resolution draft.
Okay.
In the caption, it talks about resolution amending the official zoning district map to officially rezone 310 Woodlawn Avenue
It's
to
316.
316 Woodlawn Avenue. So is that when there's going to do a they're going to combine, and there's going to be one address then?
It's a
And so we're saying that address,
consolidation plat.
and that 310 Woodlawn will then become, well, and really, it's not rezoning 310 Woodlawn. It would be 316 Woodlawn, or 320.
316,
It'd be
the space from
320 because-
316 to 320,
Right.
all that space. It's a combination plat. So
But where's this 310 coming in?
That was a mistake.
Jim, if I may.
Please.
In the packet, actually, I don't know if you have a copy of the packet that I provided with everyone, but I have the 316 to 320 copy in there.
it was corrected.
Yeah, it was corrected by Brandon. Yeah, that was a mistake that
I'm
we
going to
corrected.
start having you, other than me, printing off at home because, yeah. Okay, so this does say rezone, 310 says,
The one that's provided in the packet says 316 to 320 Woodlawn.
so rezone 316 Woodlawn Avenue to 320.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Then I'm fine.
And they have
Thank
been
you.
rezoned. Have we received a number from them yet? A platting number?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, has the survey been completed?
Yes.
Okay,
Survey is completed. We just haven't received a number yet to put in to the ordinance.
yeah, because, yeah, I thought
Yeah.
that's what,
Well, before it passes, it still has to go to planning commission, and do we have to have a
public hearing.
public hearing?
Public hearing and
Yeah.
all that. So landowner Mike will schedule the planning commission. So can we go ahead and do the public hearing?
Does it matter how far from the planning commission meeting, or?
I think it's just after.
I think it would be better to wait and see what the planning commission
Yeah.
decides.
That's a good idea.
I'm with
That's
Miranda.
awesome.
They may say no.
She deserves a raise, I'm telling you.
Your cheeks
Okay.
aren't red.
That's because it's freezing.
Considering we're on this subject, I have a question
Okay.
about consolidation plattings. We cannot find anywhere in our ordinance that Bucyrus City requires a consolidation plat. We looked for it.
Yeah, we talked about this with Isaac, with McKeever. No other place in Crawford County requires it. So we're just curious if we can not have to have that.
Yeah, but there's no ordinance stating that we have to have a consolidation plat.
No.
Let me explain that. So if I have a property that's 150 and I buy 20 feet, now my lot is 170, and I've got a line running down through it. Now, a consolidation plat will erase that line and nobody will
Right.
ever know about it, and it'll be a consolidation. I'll get a whole new number for that plat. So I was under the assumption that there was legislation or ordinance somewhere that we needed a consolidation plat every time we sold a piece of our land or added to our piece of our land. But there's nothing that says that. And so I was just wondering why. I've always heard that Bucyrus requires a consolidation plat, and I couldn't understand why. And I'm still wondering why. Where it came from. But that was the only question I had.
So who's going to check on the permanent parcel number? To see if one's been assigned?
Dylan, how will we know that?
I can look that up.
Okay, that's awesome.
Thanks, Brandon.
You're all right. I don't care what Aaron says about you.
That was an hour ago.
Oh. Okay, we have ODOTs. ODOT replacement signs.
Mr. Chair, did you want to send that to the planning commission?
Do we need a motion for that?
Could I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a
Another
motion to
body.
send that last piece about 316 to 320 Woodlawn to the planning commission.
Thank you, Aaron. Can I have a second?
I'm sorry, second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. ODOT replacement signs. And railroad legislation. I gotta look that up.
Let's see which of our friends has that.
So.
Now, the ODOT replacement signs and railroad legislation, that's two different things.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'm not finding in here, unless there's no legislation for the railroad. It's just an agreement. So we need legislation authorizing the signing of the agreement. Okay.
But for the ODOT replacement sign, essentially it's a consent for the ODOT to go through and replace all of their signs and allowing the service director to go into, work with them and go into whatever contracts they need.
Okay, so now is this legislation, and the reason you have a resolution prepared is because we're going to, the committee approves this, then we're passing, or we're going to present it to council tonight for consideration. The ODOT replacement signs.
That's my understanding.
Yes.
But we have no legislation draft on the railroad because.
I'm not aware of a deadline for that.
Right,
so.
gotcha. Okay, understand. Okay. So, okay, I'm sorry.
So what do you need from me? Do you need a motion to? Not really?
We're on the replacement signs, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I believe that you would probably need to refer it as, well, request it as an emergency.
Right.
Given that the deadline is November 15th.
Right.
Mr. Me,
Yes, ma'am.
did we see any issues with this legislation?
I'm sure this is the typical where it's already prepared by the state.
I just want to make sure
And you don't
that.
make any changes to it.
I'm like, I just want to make sure that we had it out loud.
Yeah, they did my job for me on that one.
Isn't that nice of them?
It was.
Okay, then I would like to make a motion to send this piece of legislation to full council as an emergency.
I can't second it, so.
Excuse me.
I can't.
We got a motion
I can't second it.
to send it to full council as an emergency?
And you made the motion?
I did.
No, she made the motion.
Okay, I apologize. I second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we have railroad legislation.
So essentially, the Public Utilities Commission is offering to reimburse us for fixing the railroad crossings that they have disclosed in the documents that you have before you. I don't know if their deadline for us to go into that agreement with them at this time, but I believe it would probably be best to do it as an emergency, seeing as how they want to start working on this probably sooner rather than later.
Well, and the fact that the letter says, request that you have this document reviewed and executed promptly.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose out on $21,000 and $944 in reimbursement. Okay, so I move to authorize, and I'm going to assume we're going to authorize the Service Safety Director to sign the agreement with the Ohio Public Utilities Commission dealing with the supplemental application for 21 crossings in the city of Bucyrus.
Are you doing that as an emergency?
As an emergency.
Oh, then I will second that.
Oh, that's just awesome.
You're welcome.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Nice and quick.
Okay, now we're to solar panels. I've had this legislation prepared for quite a while. Given the fact that, well, it's time to move on it. Because we've had, before this year, we had probably 3 people put solar panels in the last 5 years or whatever, but we've had 11 this year, so we need to get some kind of area here. So the only thing, I've run this by the fire department, and I talked to the chief, and the chief said he wanted the final inspection, or at least the option for the final inspection. Now, do we put that in the ordinance? Or
They want the option to do the final inspection?
the chief wants wants an option to do a final inspection on the roof of solar panels.
Okay, then yes, that would go in the legislation.
Okay, could we have that added to the legislation?
Correct.
Kick that back to me.
Was there anybody else that we were waiting on information for this for? I thought there was, but I can't remember.
Well,
You guys got anything?
back when we met on May the 9th.
Jesus,
It's been a week.
That's awesome.
What?
May the 9th, that's awesome.
I had questioned when we had this ordinance to look over, I questioned former Law Director Gernert on letter G, which talks about roof access dimensions for firefighting. And it says the following roof access dimensions shall be required in connection with any roof-mounted solar panels. And then it goes on to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I questioned if the fire department had been given a copy of this ordinance to look over, and if the fire chief was fine with the verbiage in here dealing with the roof access dimensions. And at that time, Gerdert stated that he would need to meet with the fire department, and then he would amend the draft if needed, so the matter was tabled. The committee met then again on May 23rd, and solar panels wasn't discussed. It just said matter was tabled and then was never discussed again. So I don't know if he got with the fire.
Oh, yeah, I did. I
Well,
got
you
with the
said
fire
you spoke
chief.
with the fire chief, and so he's,
I'd give him a copy of it.
Great,
And he's
wonderful.
good with it, except he wants the option of a final
Okay.
inspection
Added to it.
added to the legislation.
okay.
And while you're at it, just look over the legislation and any changes that need made, go ahead and make them and let us know.
Sure.
If something's not,
Okay.
critique it.
So, to clarify, they want the option of the final inspection, or they want to be able to do the final inspection?
Brandon,
Yes, sir.
I've been in contact with all these solar companies. As of right now, I have 22 permits in the city since I've been here,
22.
since mid-July. So, because right now there's a program in Ohio for solar panels, and all these companies are hitting residents. A few going door to door, not having solicitor permits. That's a whole different issue. But with the solar companies I've talked to, most of the designs, they're required to have at least a 24-inch access pathway on the roof for fire departments and maintenance. They're also required to be so far away from the edge of the roof peak, you can't be anywhere over the roof peak with the planned panel designs. The regulations are pretty good.
So, Greg White, I got a question. Since you were in the fire, what is that code that we had talked about at one time? Because this was actually,
It depends if it would be come under the Ohio Fire Code,
that was under the Ohio Fire Code that this was designed under, I believe.
or if it comes under the National Fire Protection Association.
I think it was the state.
So there you have, which in the state of Ohio, they recognize NFPA as a reference guide. The Ohio Fire Code, however, is the Bible of Ohio.
There are mentioned as the, did you say the FMPA?
The national, NFPA.
Yeah, there's been mention of that code on their designs, following regulations for Ohio. So
I know-
all the plans that I've received are all stamped by a professional engineer with Ohio stamp.
Yeah.
So I don't approve anything unless they have a PE stamp, because that's what's required. So,
I know this piece of legislation was designed after that, but
right.
to image that, to mirror that. You got something to say?
My only suggestion is maybe consider, Kevin Myers working on this, but maybe consider putting it in your legislation, adding a phrase, agreeing with or following NFPA and Ohio Fire Code standards. That way, if those standards ever change, you're staying with it.
Oh, there you go.
Hey,
Did you catch that, Mr. Gobert?
quick Google search. NFPA 855 is mandatory. And then it goes into more that the NFPA code for fire panels is in there. And also, there is also NFPA for electrical panels. Okay? So basically, 855 of the NFPA specifically states for residential use and solar panel requirements.
That was 855?
Yeah, 855, hang on, let me go in there. Second edition, 2023. The standards for installation of stationary energy solar systems provide mandatory requirements for and the explanations of the safety, strategic, and features of energy storage systems, ESS. Correct, Mike? Okay, we're good. So it has a 36-inch rule and all kinds of stuff in there.
Okay.
All right?
Something else that we need to add onto this, I'm not sure if it's in the present or what, but, we're only allowing roof-mounted solar panels in town. We're not allowing any standalone in yards. Only roof-mounted, correct? I've only had two
We're not-
inquiries on that.
We're not allowing them in the front yards.
Are we even allowing standalone panels? Because that's something that
As long
we've
as they
never
conform
addressed.
as an accessory structure.
On an accessory structure?
It says they may be building mounted or ground mounted solar panels.
Okay, because I was going by that we were only allowing roof mounted, but we didn't have this legislation in place.
No, it's not in place. We're still roughing it in. But
So if I get a plan before this is finalized, am I allowed to approve it?
well, there's nothing on the books now as far as solar panels.
Correct.
So you just have to go by the state, right? The 8855?
That's national. It's a reference code.
Okay, so I have to go off of accessory, non-roof mounted solar panel requirements then?
That's my understanding.
It's my
Okay.
understanding, as long as you're within the limits of the setbacks from the side, the back, the alleys, and nothing in the front yard, I don't believe.
Okay.
I take it you don't have a copy of this, Mike?
I give him one.
Okay.
So we're just gonna wait till that gets amended?
So let's gather some more information, I guess, because we don't want this to, we don't want it to try to supersede the state or federal fire codes, right?
Correct.
Okay. Could you just take a look at it
Yes,
and see what needs rewritten and give it back to us?
I can do that.
Put your thoughts in there. Actually, just like you did the pond legislation, would be awesome.
Excellent.
Perfect. All right, we good with that?
Yes.
Okay. Open projects, any?
No.
Nope.
Public participation.
Max Miller, 135 East Kilbourne Drive. Just a quick question about solar panels. I know previously Law Director Gurn had talked about like the city having property and potentially leasing that out or something to solar panels. So if I guess if the city comes up with legislation allowing solar panels, but then the county commissioner, tries to ban it, would the city supersede that, or who would have jurisdiction there?
I would refer that question to the law director.
I can look into that.
Okay, cool, thank you.
I will make a note of
Sorry, I'm writing. Anybody else?
Jim?
Yes.
Question or a comment? Is there a possibility, I know it's already been tabled, but is there a way that the ODOT sign replacement could be sent to the safety service director since the deadline with ODOT is next week? Before the
We're
next-
gonna have a meeting later.
Our meeting tonight.
Oh, okay, all right,
It'll be done tonight.
all right.
Thanks, Carl.
No open projects, so public participation, nothing. 8:52, we're adjourned.
Finance Committee, November 7th, 2024.
Call the Finance Committee to order at 8:54 PM. Members present, James Me, Christopher Moritz, Vicky DeShawn, and Kevin Myers, Chair. I'd like to thank everybody for sticking around with us this evening. Is there any public participation for finance? If so, podium, name, and address.
Gary Miller, 800 Rogers. Now, I'm not sure if I can get this answer. It's Kaylee, right? I don't know if it was 2 meetings ago or whatever, you guys voted on taking the pay away from Mrs. Shireman for unexcused absences. Now, Kurt told me he gave you the proper paperwork to have that done. I'm just following up to, did he do that?
I believe the most current one, I think it was 1 day.
No, it was more than 1 day.
1 meeting?
Yeah, she missed more than one regular
Mr.
meeting.
Miller, if I could, since that's not actually been referred to this committee, can I ask that you meet with Ms. Lewis privately, or not in this committee, because this committee doesn't have jurisdiction?
So
Yeah,
that has nothing to do with finance.
Well, it's a finance matter, but the finance committee is not overseeing that. So if you could get with her, that way we're not violating any
I
rules
just want to
here.
make sure I was told.
Understood. Thanks. Any other public participation? No. Handle that right? Yeah. Okay.
Greg White, 1125 Hillcrest Drive. I know we're talking about the budget tonight.
We are not.
You're not.
It was referred, but we're not prepared to address it with anything, so it's not,
So is it the budget available to the public yet?
hasn't even been started to be worked on, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the second thing that, since at least it was on the agenda tonight, I want to know from finance, what are you guys going to do about the money that has never been put into the budget for the buyouts for the police and firefighters? Case in point, a particular police officer just retired. Okay? He was due $43,807.85 by public record request. Okay? I'm not going to get into how much time and stuff, but that was. Luckily, through my research, is that the Safety Forces Personal Service account had $60,000 in it to actually cover the cost of this buyout. And that was all that is in 202-7110-52117. So there was money budgeted from last year for only one person for $60,000. My question is this: are we going to put that potential $500,000 into the budget for 2025? Because once again, the unknown is there. We know one firefighter's leaving in the spring. Okay? How many more are going to jump on the bandwagon, and see what's going on? I mean, you're just basically, and I think the last discussion we had was, we don't know who's going to retire. No one knows if anything will happen.
Right.
But you still have, and the account is still growing, because every time they get a raise, that increases that money, because they're based on their official ending hourly wage. So every time they get any of these people get a raise, that keeps going up. Okay? Especially just in general for the fire department, you're looking at just roughly a little under 20 grand per year. That keeps growing in just that department only. That doesn't include the police department. So that's my question to Finance Committee.
So to answer that one, typically, this is my 7th year on Finance Committee, and typically what we do when we start in the fall, looking at the next year's budget, the question by the administration is asked of each chief, do you have any planned retirements? Now, I know exactly, that's planned retirements, and the one that you just mentioned was not planned at the beginning of the year, to my knowledge. So, but that's how we start that process. Yes, I'll assure you that as we start the process of talking through the budget, this will be a part of the conversation.
So if you don't put it in the budget, where are you going to get the money from? if some people leave,
I
like
don't
we
have-
brought it up
I don't have an
last
answer
year?
to you for that right now.
I will
That's-
tell you too, Greg. We've had like the initial conversations with the department heads, and speaking to the fire chief, he, I believe, said 1, so I'm going to do my best to budget for 1. And then the police chief said he anticipated 1 or 2, so I would budget about 120,000 for the police there. So I will, it just depends what the accounts look like, if cuts have to be made, where will you make them? But as of now, that is my plan, to budget for at least 3 retirements between police and fire.
So my last question is this, with the fire contract coming up that expires on December 31st, 2024, okay? It's my understanding that they're going to be asking for 3% per year for the 3-year contract. Where's all that money going to come from?
We haven't been given any information on that yet.
I understand. Thank you.
Any other public participation? Seeing none, you have before you the minutes from the October 17th, 2024 regular Finance Committee meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Me and a second by Mr. Moritz. Is there any discussion? If not, a roll call, Mr. Me?
Yes.
Mr. Moritz?
Yes.
Mrs. DeShawn?
Yes.
I'm a yes, motion carries. As Mr. White mentioned, the 2025 budget is on the agenda. That is not being discussed tonight. It's just been referred, but we're not prepared for that yet. Also the same for the year-end appropriations, transfers, and reductions, so neither of those will be discussed this evening. Railroad legislation that has already been taken care of, correct?
Yes.
That leaves us with the annual updates to the Bucyrus codified ordinances. This is something that we do every year. What we're asking for is just the approval to enter into that transaction.
We need that as emergency?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have an invoice to that.
All right, so I'm requesting someone to make a motion as an emergency to approve the annual updates to the Bucyrus codified ordinances.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
As an emergency.
As emergency, excuse me, yes.
Clarifying, Mr. Me, you've made a motion as requesting emergency legislation, and Mr. Moritz, you seconded that?
Yes.
All right, is there any other further discussion? All right, roll call, Mr. Me?
Yes.
Mr. Moritz?
Yes.
Mrs. DeShawn?
Yes.
I'm also a yes, that motion carries. Mr. Me? Is
Yes.
there any open projects you wish to discuss?
No, sir.
Mr. Moritz?
Not this time.
Mrs. DeShawn?
No.
All right, is there any further public participation for finance? All right, seeing none, we will adjourn at
Sorry, can I
9:00.
say something really quickly?
Yes.
I know Greg asked this earlier and said he was going to ask it during finance, and he didn't, so I just wanted to address it. You asked if we would be budgeting for internet services for next year. I am planning on budgeting it just because the nature of the donation. We have no concrete assurances that it will be there or won't be there, so I think it's safe to budget for it just in case, okay?
All right. We will adjourn finance at 9:02 PM, and there is a special council meeting to follow